Alrighty, now we're live. Delighted to be joined by Chris. We had a few technical issues before we went live. Do you want to start us off with an introduction to yourself and your books?
Hi guys, my name's Chris Speck. I'm a writer from Hull in East Yorkshire, and my books are predominantly they're all set in East Yorkshire, some of them in the great city of Hull, some of them in the surrounding areas, including on the North Sea, or in a boxing gym, or way back in the 18th century with the great highwayman Dick Turpin. So I've written, let me think, 6 books now, and more are coming out, and I'm writing all the time. So it's nice to see you today, Kaz. How are you?
All right, it is. It's good to see you. And this new book is like a big change in direction, isn't it?
Do you mean Avenue Cars?
Yeah, show it off to everyone. You need to go that way a little bit with it. That's it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, it is kind of a change in direction, but because normally I write historical fiction, don't I? But you know, I still had to do the same amount of research for this one. This is a gangland thriller set in present day Hull, and it features a sort of old style gangster, our Dave, and he's got a skeleton crew of about 4 or 5 taxi drivers left, and they're all girls really, and you know, they take on other sort of gangland people around Hull and defend themselves. And there's a little bit of violence, but not much. There's excitement and thrills and some car chases and some baddies and some goodies.
And don't take this the wrong way, but it feels like a gangland thriller that could only be set in Hull.
Well, I've actually set it down. There's a street in Hull called Chantlands Avenue where I've set it. And Chantlands Avenue is not the roughest street in Hull by any means. In fact, it's just got a kind of quiet, nice street with a few good characters in it. It's got, you know, some quirky shops, quirky people, and it's not got the sort of anger of some of the other streets in Hull. And it's just a gentle place. So I wanted to say it there, just to sort of celebrate that part of town, because I like that part of town. It's kind of a little bit bohemian. People are friendly. People are skin, but they're good. They're honest folk. It's a nice part of town, and it's nice to sort of research the book as well. Going up and down Chance Avenue, chatting to people, and just hanging out on there, and you know, going into the one pub and you know, chatting to the locals. So it was sweet. It was nice to research.
I'm biased, but I think most people in Hull are nice.
Thank you, Card.
Like, you know, just from experience.
Yeah, cool. They are okay in Hull. They've got a kind of, I mean, like it's the same in Leeds. They've got that kind of sort of sarcastic edge to them sometimes, but it's usually good natured.
Laura's saying it's on Kindle Unlimited. Excellent. It's a good read, Laura. You'll enjoy it. The characters in it, absolutely brilliant. I like that you don't know who our Dave is. Like, our Dave doesn't really have a surname, does he, ever?
Well, he does actually have a surname. I can't think I
does,
removed it.
but it's not really important.
No, I mean, he's based on, I'm in a band called Black K's as well. I play the washboard, and our guitarist is his dad is the character of our Dave, and he's a wonderful, like, sort of big man with a bald head and a beard, and you know, always got his shirts sleeves rolled up, and he's been a joiner all his life, but he just likes helping people out, and he likes to buy people a pint, not because he wants anything from them. He just wants to sort of make them happy. And I wanted to write about, you know, a man like that who looked after people, and you know, he was a good vessel for that.
There was a little nod to your band in the book as well, isn't there? Someone appears who's in it.
Yeah. I often put little nods to the band in. So our singer JT's on there, and he's just fallen off his e-scooter, I think. And actually, that happened in real life a few weeks ago. I think he fell off it again on Saturday night, actually.
Oh dear, it sounds like a menace on an e-scooter.
Yeah.
And then my favourite character by far is Dilver.
Yes, right, yeah. Well, I mean, I've taught ESOL, English to speakers of other languages, for the last 20 years in Hull. So I spent a long time with Kurdish people, and You know, they're really amazing, and I wanted to write about these people. I wanted to write about these people in our city who, you know, they live here now. You know, they're not just sort of visitors. This is their city too, and you know, I do know. I mean, Dilber's the combination of about 4 or 5 of my students, and you know, they have had some tough times, and I think it's time for us as British people to say, look, you know, these people are here and they're here to stay, and they're part of our city. So it was important for me to get her in the book. Why did you like her so much, Kaz?
Because she's by far the most badass person in the book,
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, she can
isn't
beat
she?
people up for sure.
You're like, she's gonna take no nonsense from anyone.
Yeah, well, she's got PTSD from the things that she's seen in Mosul when she was fighting there. So she's a tough character, but you know, she's also a caring woman as well. That's what you find with a lot of the Kurdish girls. They're, you know, they're wonderful, caring people, and they cook so well.
Yeah, she's very nice to like sort of people around her in it, isn't she? Um, which I think is a nice a nice thing about her. She's the most likable of all of them,
Yeah.
I think.
Do you not like the lead character, Bev? She's my favorite character in it.
She is like she's quite cool as well, but yeah, no, my heart was with Dulver. Sorry.
Do you think it worked with her rough next door neighbor Rosie? Oh no, he's not called Rosie anymore. He's called
Ryan?
Ryan.
Mm, yeah, that did work.
Cool, good, good.
Although we do have to have a discussion about your opinions or their opinions about teachers in the book.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said we do need to have a conversation about their opinions about teachers in the book.
Oh well, because I'm a teacher like you are, Kaz, I can say horrible things about teachers because I feel as though I'm allowed to.
We are, but you know, I was like,
Well, if I mean, Bev hates teachers, doesn't she? Because you know, she was a teaching assistant, so she's kind of thwarted. She wanted to be one, but she couldn't because of what's happened to her in the past. She wasn't legally allowed to be a teacher, so she hates them.
fair enough. I mean, I think most teaching assistants don't always like teachers.
No, they don't know. I mean, yeah, being a teacher, I felt as I was allowed to say bad things about them. Well, that wasn't me actually. It was Bev who said that she doesn't like them. But yeah, I do know people. I mean, Bev's a sort of traditional whole character. You know, that tough, vulnerable woman. Um, and sort of. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about characters who are girls, and you know, give them more of a voice. And you know, because especially here in Hull, you know, women are kind of more powerful in some ways because, and I think I explain it in the book. Traditionally, on Hesel Road, all the men would go away to sea, and the girls were left to run the family finances and the family basically. So you get a lot of these strong women, you know, in Hull, and you know they look after things. And it's certainly that some of the girls that I grew up with and the women, you know, in my family, they're strong. They're, you know, they're battle axes.
Laura has asked how you find writing a modern set book compared to your historical books.
To be honest, I prefer writing historical books because there's not as much to think about. I think in modern books, there's so many. You've got to think about all sorts of things. There's so much technology involved. Like, so if you had someone do a crime in the 18th century and nobody saw him, that's fine. You don't have to worry. But in the modern world, there's going to be cameras. There's going to be, you know, DNA evidence. It's the minefield. So I don't. I like writing about the modern world because I like the characters, but I like working. I find the plot simpler in a historical book.
Yeah, you talk about that, don't you, in the book? There's like a bit where they do something and then they're like, what about if there were cameras or
Yeah, well, I mean, the way I got around it was by saying that, you know, if there's cameras, well, you know, if they can record, they can also be deleted as well. So whatever they record, I'll just, you know, one of their tech boffins would get in and delete it. So that's the way I tried to get around it. But it is hard, you know, and especially with mobile phones. I think a lot of modern writers, it's difficult sometimes to make the plot work and be believable because, you know, maybe something could happen and technology could stop it working.
do you think with this one that you've left it open to have like more books in the series?
I don't know. I hadn't really planned it. It was kind of I kind of wrote it as a bit of a break from writing historical fiction. Just like I thought, oh, I'll just do a sneaky crime book kind of.
I,
Um,
I
so I
think
don't know. What do you think I should, Kaz?
I think you've created too many cool characters. I don't think you can leave them. I think you need like Bev's adventures,
Well, who would you like to see a book of then? What, Dilver?
all of them.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of other stories to tell about Gangland Hull, I think, and maybe I could weave them in somewhere.
I think there's mileage in writing sort of what comes without spoilers, what comes after the events in that book, because it sort of leaves you with things
It
that
does,
they're
yeah.
still
Well,
deciding, doesn't it? So you could have like the second, like what happens next kind of thing.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I could definitely do that. There's still loads and loads of stories to tell about around this area, and and with those characters, yeah, it's good. But I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed I enjoyed putting in things that I find funny in the modern world in there. And, I put in things like yeah, just some interesting things that I like, and I got to use a lot of characters as people that I know as well. Like some of the people in it are actually real people, with their blessing, of course.
I was going to say, did you ask them how they felt about appearing?
Yeah, well, I asked anyone who's in it by their own name. Definitely, I've asked them, and they're fine about it. So yeah, I mean the baddie policeman, D.I. Lindsay, he's a good friend of ours, and he just says, look, as long as my character's really bad, I don't mind.
Oh, so he was cool with being a bad guy.
Yeah, yeah, he's quite a nasty character, isn't he?
He is, yeah, but in a kind of way that I think all the nasty characters have kind of reasons behind them.
Yeah, for sure. No one's just mean for no reason, are they?
No, but that's good that you kind of put that level of understanding into
Fair play.
them. So you said you've got other things coming up. You've like writing. So what's coming out next?
Well, I mean, I wrote The Great Frost a long time ago, which I think you read.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. You know this by now. I've read that.
Thank you very much, Kaz. So that was The
I don't
Great
think
Frost.
I've ever given you a less than a 5-star review.
I know you're a star. You really are. So I wrote The Great Frost. It's all about sort of a Dick Turpin origin story. So that's set in the Great Frost of 1709, and about a young village lass in my home village, Cherry Burton. And then I wrote the follow up to it, which was Richie Lad. This is about the origin story of Dick Turpin, and Dick Turpin, and his dog there, Bess, and sort of how he becomes a highwayman, and how he sort of gets on the wrong end of the law, and falls in love and stuff like that. So I'm just writing the third installment. In this book, Richie's 17, but in the next book, the final book, Swift Nick, he's 44, and so he's much more of a grizzled, nasty kind of character. He's been through some horrible experiences, and so yes, it's his story of how he rescues a young 16-year-old girl called Swift Nick, and they end up becoming kind of friends on the road and partners in crime, if you like. So it's kind of a father and daughter story, even though she's not his daughter.
How's it like when you're writing about like real characters? Because people obviously know what happens to Dick Turpin.
Well, there was a really good show about Dick Turpin with set in the 70s, and Dick Turpin was hanged in something like 1736. So what they did was they just decided that actually he wasn't hanged, and they hanged the wrong person. So I've done that as well. So I just decided that they caught the wrong guy, and they hung him thinking he was Dick Turpin. And so Dick Turpin's still around long after his supposed hanging. Yeah, I've totally rewritten history. And I enjoy rewriting history to some extent. I mean, in the next book, Dick Turpin helps invent Yorkshire puddings. That's not historically factual, but anyway.
What do people think though when you go away from that? Because that's what I think the challenge is always when you do a historical book that has a real person in, is how much you decide to stick to the truth.
Yeah,
And
I
then
don't.
what people
I
do
don't.
is you
I mean, I
don't.
think the real Dick Turpin was quite a horrible thug, and my Dick Turpin's certainly not that at all. So yeah, I've used loads of license.
Does anyone get, like, do you get any complaining letters because you use loads of license, or
Not really. No, not about no, not about Dick Turpin. I don't think he's a super loved character in history.
no?
He's just. I mean, he was made famous by the Penny Dreadfuls, wasn't he? In 100 years ago. Before that, he was just a kind of a criminal thug. So I don't know. I've kind of taken I just taken someone famous who might have lived around this area or might have been around this area and just used him for my own ends, really.
Well, with I mean, there's some, because 'cause can't you go and see his cell in York? So he must have been around the area.
Well, he definitely was. He was apparently caught in Beverley, and then he was taken to York. But in my story, they do get the wrong chap, and he said his name was John Palmer. And apparently, he was caught by he'd written a letter, and someone recognised his handwriting. I'm not sure I believe that, but and that's the history. He was taken to York Jail, and he was kind of a celebrity for a while there. People would pay to go and see him. They'd bring him gifts, and I don't think he thought that he was going to hang, and then they did hang him. So in my story, yeah, that they get the wrong guy, and maybe they did get the wrong guy.
Well, I mean, court processes weren't quite as, accurate, were they, in those times?
Very true. And it might have been an excuse to sort of either get rid of that guy or say, look, we've done a good job. We've got rid of a violent criminal at last. So I'm not sure, but anyway, I've enjoyed writing it, and I've
Sam
enjoyed.
says,
Sorry,
sorry,
go on.
carry on.
Yeah, I've enjoyed sort of going around the wilds of East Yorkshire on my push bike, and looking at all the places that he goes in the story. Traveling all the back roads that he travelled, and it's been nice to do that, and really sort of find out about this area. And it's kind of a lonely flatland, this part of East Yorkshire. Yeah. So it's been nice for me to learn about and all the animals that live around here that he would have known, and yeah, it's nice. It's been good.
There's some beautiful sort of outer bits as well, isn't there, around East Yorkshire? Like
Oh,
some
yeah, some lovely
like,
places around here. I mean, there's so much history to write about, really, and there's so many stories that I could. Well, I'll carry on forever doing it. Yeah, I've got lots of good stories to write about East Yorkshire. Maybe I might even go back into the Bronze Age as well. I'm not sure.
well, that'd be good. What would you write sort of set in the Bronze Age?
Well, there's a huge stone in a little village called Rudston, which is it's sort of in the middle of East Yorkshire, and there's a huge monolith there, and it's huge. I mean, it's as big as one of the stones at Stonehenge, and it stands next to this church on a hill. And nobody really knows why it's there. I put it in the Great Frost. There's a little reference to it, but this huge stone just stands there, and about halfway up, there's what looks like a dinosaur's footprint in it. Now, it's since been debunked that it's not a dinosaur's footprint, but we don't know who put it there. It appears to be a piece of stone that comes from cliffs many, many miles away. So who put it there? Why is it there? And when you do go to Woodstone, there's a sense of something magical about it. It's quite a sort of a strange place, but beautiful. So I'll write something set there, perhaps in the Bronze Age, when we don't really know what the people were doing around here. Oh, I
No,
do.
so you can make up what you want then.
You really can, yeah. That would be nice.
Sam says, "Do you have anyone you consider your partner in crime?" I'm hers.
Anyone I consider my partner in writing crime?
Just in crime, maybe. Because me and Sam don't write, well, Sam writes crime, but I don't.
I mean, the person who helps me most is probably my two kids, really. I tell them my ideas, and they just listen. Usually they just don't say anything. I said, "Do you want to read the book?" And they never do. So yeah, I mean, but they help me out. My editor also helps me out. He's a very good lad. He will. He's kind of the one person who would say to me, "Look, that's not going to work." And usually, whatever I think is good in the book, he will say, "No, that's rubbish." And he helps me out with all sorts of things. So he's yeah, a good help for the book, really.
So you your kids have never read the books. Even isn't your son on the cover one of them.
Yeah, he is. He was on the old cover of Richie Lad. He was on the cover, but we've switched it up now to give it a more sort of so they look like they're part of the same series, really. So we've got rid of that picture. He has actually read. He read my first book, Beast, which is about a young boxer from Hull and a huge wolf that lives down Barmston Drain. He's read that one, and his reaction was that it's not as good as John Steinbeck, which is true.
All right, well, I don't know whether this is a compliment or not, but I would prefer to read your books over John Steinbeck.
Really? Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, John Steinbeck's kind of he's the model for all my books, basically. I kind of copy him and just put it in Hull or in East Yorkshire. So yeah, he's kind of like he's my favorite writer. I think he gets to the heart of like the human condition probably more so than any other writer, and he writes in a very simple way, which is what I like to do. He's like his writing is very accessible. It's open to anybody, and so I very much try and copy that as well. I would like to write simply, but exciting and get straight to the story. No messing about, no padding. Straight into the character development, straight into the story, just to grab the reader. And that's the way I enjoy reading as well. So that's what I try and do.
So there's people like you and Nick Control writing like great books set in Hull and around it. What if people haven't been there? What's so special about it?
I don't know. Special about Hull, it's got a sort of gravelly humour to it. The people are friendly, but they're poor. It's a flat city. People are a little bit more creative here than other places. I mean, this is the city of the siege of Hull was in like 1660 or something like that, when the king came to Hull and tried to enter the city, and they didn't let him. Kind of, they were anti-monarchists, and there is that kind of sense here as well that we're not part of the whole. We're the end of the line. There's nowhere else to go when you come here, so we're kind of like a bit savage and unique and a bit gruff but friendly. And so yeah, I think there's a sense of that. If you come and visit Hull, it is unique. We have some unique music here. We've got some great places to go for a drink and have a good time. Yeah, it's a beautiful city as well, especially the weird and wonderful people that live here. A bit like Leeds.
True. Leeds doesn't have a really cool dinosaur museum though, unlike Hull.
I don't know that it's gone through many changes, that dinosaur museum. Have you been, Kaz?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been for many years now.
I went a couple of years ago.
Do you come to Hull often, Kaz?
I haven't been for a while. I used to go to Hull quite often because I married a man from there.
Ah. And your dad knows Hull very well, doesn't he?
My dad knows Hull very well. Yeah, he used to sail from there.
Fair play.
So yeah, got a few links to the old city.
It's not just I mean, East Yorkshire's not just Hull. There's loads of other places outside of it, like Beverley. Hornsey's really good as well. Drifield's another little jewel in East Yorkshire's crown. These kind of sleepy market towns that have got a huge amount of history that everyone just forgets. Yeah, there's lots of great history in this part of the world. Yesterday I was at a place called Spurn Point. It's like the tip of East Yorkshire. It's just like a beach that stretches right out into the sea. It's kind of weird and really windswept.
Lovely. Spurn
Have you been
Point.
there?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, it's kind of eerie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lovely place to walk, isn't it?
It's really nice. And I was there because in the next book, Swiftnick and Dick Turpin get captured on a boat, so they sail around that. So I wanted to look at it and see what it was like as well.
Would it have been, because there's a lot of coastal erosion and stuff, isn't there, around there? So would it have been different in those times? Do you have to go back and look at what like the coastline was like then?
Yeah, I think it was really different, and there was a lot of places that have disappeared into the sea now as well. I haven't really looked at that because it would get too complicated for me, so I've just stuck to whatever's around now. I said was around then as well.
Ah, fair enough.
But yeah, so he's there's so much history to it. I didn't even realize either. We're looking at the things like in the sea. There's different parts of the ocean that they've got different names, and there's little parts that just off the off Spurn Point. I think it's called the Dreadful because it's such a terrible part of water to sail.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but yeah, it's kind of a nasty place to sail if you're a sailor down the Humber.
Don't you have to have a pilot to sail down the Humber?
Yeah, you do.
Or someone
Yeah,
who
when you
knows
come
how
to
to do
Hull,
it?
the Humber pilot will come out to your boat. He'll jump on and he'll take you up into dock because there's shifting sandbanks on the river. It's hard to navigate. It's notoriously hard to navigate.
There are people who try to walk across it, isn't there?
Apparently,
Isn't
the
there a
Romans
sense
used to
where you
walk across
can
it. Yeah, Ferriby. They used to walk across when the sandbanks were up, and they knew how to do it. I don't know if anyone's tried it recently. Whew. But it's a cold bit of water, and it's dirty as well.
yeah, it doesn't ever look that clean, does it?
Yeah, it's very sandy, and whenever we go there, I always pretend to see a dolphin. But you can get a boat out on the Humber now. There's some great people who you can hire a boat and get a speedboat and go around and see. There's always seals in the water, and on a nice day, it's a beautiful stretch of water.
Nice. What have you been doing to sort of promote Avenue Cars? Have you done any author things? Got any kind of book events booked?
Well, I've done a few events around the libraries of East Yorkshire. I've been down to talk at the pubs and the libraries down in Hull as well. So I've done a few things on there. I've been to my favourite places on Champlan's Avenue, and they've all got a copy. Like my favourite place on Chance Avenue is called Steve Cycles. It's the best cycle shop in the world, run by Steve. And he's just such a great character. He'll fix your bike for almost nothing. Always give you do a great job. So he's great. There's some Chance Ave coffee bars also good. The chip shops down there are amazing. It's a great street, Kaz. You should walk down it one day.
If I haven't already.
I wonder if you have. Do you think you have?
I don't know.
Where's your husband from in Hull?
Oh God. Long Hill.
Okay, that's East Hull. That's quite a way away.
Yeah.
But that's also a good part of the city, a neglected part of the city as well.
He's but he's not been back for a bit now.
So what are you reading at the moment then, Kaz? What are you into?
What am I reading? I'm reading Martin Edwards.
Okay.
His Rachel Savanache series.
And are you far onto your reading challenge this year? You must have done quite a few books already.
I am. I've read about 100 books, 113, I think. What about you? What are you reading?
To be honest, I'm just reading all the old stuff that I've read, in the past. I've just been reading a bit of Dostoevsky, and yeah, just going back over John Steinbeck stuff, looking at how he does it and like copying him. So generally, I read the sort of same few books. Sometimes I jump in and read some new stuff. Like I like DCI Boyd by Mr. Scarrow.
Oh yeah,
I like him. So yeah, I have a little look at that sort of stuff. But yeah, generally it's the old stuff that I still read because it's kind of because I write all the time as well. I'm concerned about looking at the craft of writing and how it works, how it fits together, how they fit a story together. So generally I don't really read for kind of pleasure. I read for it's kind of part of my business really.
So
but I do like it, especially when you get sucked into a book. I think the last book that really, really got me was Ready Player One. Have you read that?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, me too. It's one of those books you just open it up and think, I'm just going to read the first page, and then suddenly it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
What have you read recently by Dostoevsky then?
Well, I'm reading It's the Death of is it Ivan Ilyich? It's about a guy who's dying, and he's very worried. He's got a little family, and he's a general. And he's dying. It's his feelings and thoughts about that. Dostoevsky's quite hard to read, but he's my son's been reading a lot of him, so I've had a little look at it. and it's been a long time since I read it. I still like the old existentialist stuff though, Camus and Sartre as well. They're very good, very clipped and sort of minimalist writing, which I like. And I'll try and
I
do that too.
really like Dostoevsky.
What's your favorite book?
Well, his comedies are good.
Have you read have you read the Brothers Karamazov?
Have not yet, but my favorite one by him is The Idiot.
Oh yeah, well that's a great book. My son's just read that. It's been many years since I read it, but a good one. Weighty.
I saw a play of it once.
Oh.
It was really good. We went to see a play of it, and it was like partly sponsored by Epilepsy Society. Dostoevsky was quite famously epileptic, wasn't he? And they did had information out about things like that.
Do you like Russian literature?
Yeah, I do.
Me too. They've all got about 10 names, and you have to quite invest a bit of time to read it. But I like it.
You do. I like most classics, actually, apart from Steinbeck.
Oh, really? Oh, no, I really like Steinbeck. What about Hemingway? Do you like reading him? Yeah, I used to love it when I was younger. Not so much these days, because you can sort of feel the sort of kind of sexist sort of tones on it, really. So, but yeah, I think he's done some good stuff.
Yeah, I've never got on with Hemingway. I've tried. I don't think I've ever got to the end of a book.
Okay, I mean, For Whom the Bell Tolls is a great novel.
And then I can't forgive Steinbeck for Of Mice and Men.
You probably read it at school, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book. But they kind of ruin it at school, don't they? Like they do at lots of things. Teachers, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. I read Wuthering Heights at school, and that's my favourite book in the world.
What a great story.
So
yeah,
teachers don't ruin everything.
So they don't always ruin everything, then, I guess, do they?
No, there are some that are okay.
So who's your favourite, like, kind of modern writer who you've been enjoying this year?
Oh, I don't know if I've got I've got loads of favourite modern writers. I really enjoyed this year, and you probably really like it, a book called The Maiden by Kate Foster.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Based on a real crime that happened, but it's in like the 1600s. So it's like
Sounds
a woman
good.
who stabbed her lover and uncle.
Ooh.
And then she gets executed by guillotine, but it's like all the story about why she might have done it that she's kind of made up.
Yeah.
So the fact exists that this like crime happened and the woman was executed, but no one knows why. And she's kind of made up that story, and it's really good.
Fair play. Sounds good. And have you chosen your because every year you have your top 5 books, don't you? Are you sort of thinking about what they are now?
I think you think if you're one of us who do it at the end of the year, like me and Sam, you probably have some in your head that are contenders, like all the way through the year. But no, I decide about a day or two before we do it.
Nice. Because I mean, how many members have you got now in the group?
Like 20, 25,000.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Great.
Me and my dad thought it'd be good if we got 500.
Well, and we're looking forward to the event in June the 3rd, is it?
It is.
The Carriage Works in Leeds.
Yes, got you at it.
Yep, I'll be there.
Very excited. Gonna be brilliant.
Great. Should be
We've
good.
got a good full representation, actually, haven't we? Because we've got Nick as well.
We've got Nick will be coming down there. I don't know how he's getting down, but I will see him there for sure. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Is it an all-day event then?
It is, yeah. We've got like 4 panels, I think, across the day, and then we're going to aim to finish off after the event with a quiz. Because Ben, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Ben in our group runs a brilliant quiz.
Yeah.
Were you on it?
I wasn't on it, no.
You should go on it.
Maybe, yeah. So it's going to go all day, and then you finish about like 8 or 9 o'clock?
I'm gonna finish about 5:30, and then I think we'll have a quiz after that'll start a bit later and probably
That
run
should be good. What time are you going to kick off?
11. It opens at 11, and then first panel at 11:30.
Really, really good. It's going to be a good day, actually.
I
Should
hope
be a lot of
so.
people there, and Leeds is a good city to visit as well.
It is much like Hull, full of friendly people, lovely
Indeed,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I guess, have you got lots of people coming from like all around the UK?
Yeah, do you know, genuinely, really all over the UK, like massively far spread of people who bought tickets.
Wow, that's great news. Where's the furthest person come from?
I can't tell you because it's a secret.
Okay, I'll find out.
So there is someone who's sworn us to secrecy that's
Okay,
attending,
but
and then
wow, that's
hopefully
really good. I mean, so yeah, and it's quite a big place as well.
the carriage works.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's in like really central, so it should be a nice day.
I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been to Leeds for absolutely ages. I've slept outside the train station in the
Have you?
90s.
In the when?
In the 90s,
Oh my god.
because they used to close it. We used to go. I used to go to university in Huddersfield, so we'd get the train to Leeds sometimes. And if you got back too late, the doors would be closed. So you'd have to sleep outside. You know, that's what you did when you were young.
I got stuck in Bradford once because we
Oh
went
no.
for a night out. We went to see a concert and we missed the last, like this. They just stopped like the public transport back. You do not want to get stuck in Bradford. Leeds is not as bad, but I wouldn't want to sleep outside the train station.
Yeah, it's not very pleasant. You know, I've slept in worse places, but yeah, yeah, great. So it should be a good day. I'm
Did
looking
you
forward to it.
ever go in the nightclub? I don't know when you went in the 90s, but there was a nightclub near the train station that was like had a revolving dance floor.
Oh wow, no, I don't remember that. I mean, I
No.
don't really know where we went in Leeds. We just used to go. I don't know. Someone must have had a plan where we went. I don't remember going on a pub that was a big boat.
Oh, that's still there.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that, and that's about it. But we used to drink a lot, so
it's a bit of a landmark, isn't it, of
it
Leeds?
is, yeah. But I mean, Leeds has got some good crime writers too, hasn't it? Who writes crime about Leeds?
Oh, there's loads. There's like Andy Barrett. He's really good. He's like a
Yeah.
working CSI. He writes stuff about Leeds. Ooh, trying to think who else. I'm gonna kick myself. Liz Mystery does Bradford.
Oh yeah.
Um,
So it's like every sort of major city has its own crime writer.
yeah, and I think Northern crime writers, especially, is a thing, isn't
Yeah,
it? There seems to be a prevalence of like Northern crime writers.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't consider myself a crime writer really, but you know, crimes do happen. But yeah, I don't. I mean, maybe I should. I was thinking about writing maybe a crime book set in East Hull, but you know, with a policeman in it. But I guess every time I think of it, I think all the angles have been covered almost.
Do you not think that some of the things you've written are crime books, though?
I mean, they are in that crimes happen, and you know, they deal with nasty people. But there isn't a specific crime usually that is just driving the whole narrative. And I
I
know
think
that's very simplistic to say that's of crime books, but and I really don't know what the criteria is for being a crime writer. Maybe I am one. I don't know.
I think it's I think Avenue Cars is probably your most crimey book in the sense of that most crime readers would recognize as crime.
Yeah, yeah. But I tried to play with the genre as well. I tried not to have the same kind of characters that you see on all of them. You know, like a serious white man detective. You know, I wanted to play around with it with the genre a bit.
But for a gangland thriller as well, it's quite sort of gentle in places.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, all my books are kind of gentle, really. There's not anything really gruesome that happens. They're kind of they're PG in a way. I think the most terrifying thing is the character of Diane and what she's thinking about doing to her own son.
Yeah.
That's the kind of terrible thing, really. So yeah, I mean, they are terrible things, but it's not going to be. gruesome, or it's not going to be bloody, because I don't do that kind of thing.
Is there a reason why you don't, or is it just
Um,
not how you write?
yeah, I'm not. I don't think it's necessary. It's not necessary for me as a writer to write sort of visceral and gruesome things, because I want to write books that are uplifting and that have that make people feel good rather than make them feel afraid. And that's kind of what I enjoy, to make a story where people struggle through the elements of their life, and are triumphant at the end. And so all of my books do that, and that's what I like to write. I like to write positive things, even if they are set in grim situations.
I
So
mean,
that,
there
that
are some non-positive things in Avenue Cars, aren't there? There are some sort of bits that don't end well for people.
yeah, there are. I mean, it's a lot more real in terms of some of the characters. There's drug addicts in it. There are people who are, I mean, poor as Dilver's friend Aziz, he's about to die. So yeah, there are some nasty things, and yeah, so horrible things happen. But in the end, it is uplifting, hopefully. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I would agree. Yeah,
I
I
did
think
remove something that were at the end of the book that would have really radically made it a very different story, and it would have made it a lot bleaker. But I removed it. Um, yeah, and I'm not sure. I just didn't want to make a story that was ultimately sad. I wanted to make it uplifting.
I think that's a sort of a thing about your writing, though, isn't it? That it's very character driven,
For
and it is
sure, yeah.
very much like about people finding their way through life and how
Yeah,
they
I mean
interact with everyone around them. More than it being focused on a crime, like you said, or anything else. So the crime might happen around them, and then it's how they deal with. But I think that's an interesting thing, and that doesn't make you not a crime author.
that's okay. I'm a crime writer.
Well, some of them are. I would say your first one. Well, not your first one, but the one on the trawler. That's definitely a crime novel. It's a locked room.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. A crime happens on that. There's a murder.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Well,
I'll show
yeah.
you.
It's an essentially a locked room mystery, which is
It
one
is.
of the
There it is.
classic kind of crimes, isn't it? An Aussie tale.
Yeah. So there is a crime on the trawler. Um, yeah, there is a crime on that trawler, and there is a murder, and it is a crime book. But again, with that, I mean, really, the crime in it is just it's just an excuse, really, to tell the story. Really, I just wanted to tell a story about these amazing characters who worked on the trawlers. So the most convenient thing to do is have a murder on the trawler.
I think
Really,
there's
what we want to do is talk about those guys.
so much that could get written about people who go on trawlers because it's so dangerous, isn't it? It's like one
It's
of the
an
most
insane
dangerous
job.
jobs in the world. Like, it's insane.
I mean, how many trips did your dad do? Because he was on the trawlers, wasn't he?
He was, I don't know, he'd have to answer you that, but he did a few.
It's just so dangerous, and yeah. I mean, the things that the guys live through is just awful, and it was a very dangerous job done by very, very hard and brave men.
Yeah, he essentially says that you either come back alive or, like, not.
Yeah, and really the fishermen sort of influenced this town. They because they were hard and they were gruff, and they had that kind of earthy humor that comes from having your life being put on the line all the time. All you can do is laugh about that. You can't get upset about it, or you become a nutcase. So their kind of hard attitude to life bleeds through this city. And the fact that they didn't like to boast, they're kind of modest guys as well. That also bleeds through this city, more so than I think people imagine.
There's a few people on here saying they like a sad ending sometimes.
Oh, really?
Sam's dobbing me in. She said, "I like a bleak book."
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my mum wouldn't like it, so it's got to be a happy ending for me. I mean, not everything turns out right, or turns out how you expect it, but usually characters will triumph. Usually.
I don't think anything always turns out how you expect it in your books, but I think that's a good thing.
Great stuff. Yeah. Well,
I
I
think
always know.
sometimes you end up liking someone and you're like, I don't know why I like this person now.
Yeah, I like him. I like all the characters really. And I think sometimes you could make a lot more of some of the characters. Like you could write a whole book about Leatherhead, for example, who's the Hesel Road gangster. But yeah, I just gave her a kind of bit part really.
See, that's what I was thinking when I was reading the book. I was like, there's so much of this that could just be like, I hope there's a whole series here, that there's more like books that are just, like the separate people that are just involved that come together in this one kind of all deserve their own book.
Yeah, I really like the Polish girl in it as well.
She definitely deserves her own book. And that'd be a good way to take the series.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, she's a good character.
She
Um,
is.
but yeah, sometimes I know you could do more with the characters, but you just sort of put them in there. They're just like flavor.
Do you feel a bit like sometimes that you've done with that book and you need to move on to something else?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I didn't plan to write any more Avenue Cars. It's just going to be a one-off. And they do sit within the same story as Beast and North Sea Tale, whereas in the same city. And there's a few things that sort of they refer back to each other if you look at it carefully. But I didn't plan to write any more Avenue Cars. But you never know. I might do. I might keep writing crime books about Hull. I don't know.
You see, you never know. Ellie Griffiths wrote a standalone book called The Stranger Diaries and intended it to be like a one-off thing, and it's now a series with that character.
Well,
So
if it works,
maybe Avenue Cars is your one of those.
it could well be. I'm not sure where I'd take our Dave though. I mean, I'm not sure what would happen. But
Maybe
yeah,
you could retire.
he needs to retire. I mean, I don't know. You can't retire. Our Dave doesn't retire. He just looks after people. That's what he does.
Well, he could retire and do that in a different way.
He could do, or he could get bigger. I don't know. Or maybe there's some sort of other threat that's going to come and try and rock his
Hmm.
illegal alcohol trade, boot gangster operation.
Yeah. You wouldn't think that in a big bootleg alcohol thing would be a thing anymore.
It took me ages. It took me ages to work out what I was going to what his illegal business was going to be, and I was actually on the allotment in. I mean, ooh, what's wrong with my computer? On the allotment where our Dave has his shed and keeps his gun. I was actually sat on the allotment when someone pointed out that there's still a big trade in illegal alcohol in the UK. And I thought, oh, that's it. Because yeah, we do still get lots of illegal spirits coming in from Europe, and it's a big business.
Yeah, and I guess Hull being a big port is, yeah, good place to do it.
Yeah. So that's his illegal trade, and happy he is doing it.
So we are near the end of our time. Remind us what everyone is going away to buy if they've been watching.
So you can get hold of any of my books from Amazon, and if you really want a signed copy, send me a DM or something like that, and I'll try and get you one in the post. But you can
Or
get my
come
book
to the
Beast,
live event in Leeds.
or I'll be selling them in Leeds as well. Beast is my first book about a boxer in Hull.
Are you going to bring copies of that to Leeds? Because that's the only one I think I don't have.
Yeah, I'll bring them all. I'll bring them all to Leeds in my big suitcase.
I shall buy one of those.
That'll be grand, Kaz. But the one, so North Sea Tale is by far and away my biggest seller. Also sold the film rights not so long back. Not sure what's happening with that. So that's my biggest seller about a murder on a 1974 trawler. The one
of my dad's favourite books as well. He loves it. Isn't he? My dad was a really big fan of that book.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, he went and did this, didn't he? He was on those trawlers, so he knows the life better than I do. So fair play to him. And my latest book is Avenue Cars, a gangland thriller set on Cheltenham's Avenue in Hull. It's got thrills and spills and drugs, a bit of violence, and really, really good character-driven fiction.
It really is, yeah. And all of them that I've read have had a 5-star review from me.
Kaz, thank you so much for that.
Very worth buying.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
You're
Sometimes you
welcome.
forget as a writer, you just, you sit in your own bubble.
But you need to keep writing
Yeah, I will do every day.
then, because we all enjoy them. And
Thank you,
thank you
guys.
so much for joining us. Sam says she's loved watching us together. Thanks so much for a great hour.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for watching.